back. We had to take a quick little break. I had to get on the scale to see how much I weighed after all that unpacking and shit. Jatella was just saying that we're not giving, this genius to black women.
Absolutely.
And we need to work on that. We definitely need to, and it's interesting, even on this platform saying that, I need to be saying that to people who are not, because I think the people who follow me and pay attention are saying black women are genius. I have like 80% of my women, watch me. That's 80% of my audience. So I guess I need to find a way to talk to the men who are, not assigning that to women as well.
I think queer folk and women do a spectacular job of assigning genius to black women and black queer folk. You don't find a black queer space and they're not calling Tiffany Pollard a genius.
Absolutely.
She is a genius and she's an icon. We all gonna say that, right? Like, you don't find many black queer spaces and they're not naming Beyonce as a genius, right? But like, black queer spaces are not discursive. Black queer spaces are not mainstream. And so
our phrases and everything else is.
Absolutely, because what is mainstream takes from what we bring to the table and then erases us from the conversation.
And only so far as black culture is mainstream.
Right.
And black culture is black culture.
Right. Correct. And black culture is pop culture. At this point, and that's where we get these conversations about whether or not this is trivializing or whatever. Right. But I think that is to say that my overall frustration with the discourse around This Is America is that not just the murder of black people in the video, but that the space being given to Donald for us to even reckon with whether or not the video is good, or for us to even reckon with whether or not he is a genius artist or he's a good artist.
He was on Saturday Night Live.
He absolutely was. Is not space given to many other people. And I think that Jordan and I were talking about this earlier, and so Jatella and I were talking about this earlier, and so was Raekwon, that you don't get a Redbone or a Formation or a Get Out without being in this this current political climate, right? And so with that being the case, if we are to really talk about what is genius or what is progressive, you can't talk about that without talking about what created space for these type of for this type of art to exist, and that is black women and queer folk who have existed on the ground doing organizing work.
Absolutely.
Right? You don't get to a Beyonce Formation, or you don't get to even a Janelle Monáe with her latest album, Dirty Computer, which is a beautiful album. You don't get to that type of art without those of us who have existed at the forefront for the longest of time being erased from this conversation, who they are oftentimes stealing from. Not Janelle. I think Janelle, Miss Girl came out as pansexual. She's doing her thing.
She is. I still don't feel like people are as receptive though, and I think even maybe this conversation about the Childish Gambino and his video and This Is America kind of stole from her light, but even it's still I know the girls are writing pages about Gambino and have said nothing about it.
Even the Watcher.
And it was crazy.
Yeah. And please, I know this is happening days after or a day or so after the video is released. But when it comes down to writing about it, let it simmer. Just let it simmer and actually
I always tell people that even when I do my videos, I wait a couple of days. Right. I try because I want to understand it, but you do have some who are so quick.
I think it's important to sit with the art. But as my good friend Zoe pointed out earlier on Twitter, and as the only person around the table who does freelance writing, I think it's also important to talk about the what's the word I'm looking for? Competition, the competitiveness of freelance writing, and how quick these publications
This is true.
expect for you to push out this
That
type
is
of
true.
work, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want the money, you have to be the first one to be able to add to the conversation.
This
And
is
if you're
America.
not- This is America. Like, and if you want the money, you don't have a choice but to push that out within the first 12 hours, or you're done.
Okay, because we
So-
live in a what?
And I
Capitalist
also,
society, socialism.
right. And I also want to say, I guess, as a last remark or one of my final remarks, is that I want us to at least first I want to imagine Gambino as having. I always try to assign agency and autonomy to black people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all this conversation around like Gambino's proximity to white people and like how he's using white gaze to create or formulate his art and like how it's really what it's called critical generosity. Jeffrey McCune talks about it. Like, I'm willing to think or imagine him as capable of creating art that is in some way autonomous, even though that black autonomy is under the strictures of white supremacy. It's saying that, I also want to give black people, specifically Gambino in this moment, or I want to imagine Gambino's art as giving black people the license to grapple with, in a very visceral and uncensored way, Black death. And I think that is so important because, you know, the incommensurability of black violence, like the incalculability of it, the grammarless nature of it, means that Black death is still a scene that needs to be unpacked. Uncensored, unmitigated, unadulterated. And I think that, you know, we have to negotiate, of course, we always have to negotiate this line between publicly doing this, which Gambino is doing, and how much it lends itself to territorialization by white eyes and territorialization by capitalism and thusly commodification and trademarking, and then Black death becomes a commodity. I think that's legitimate, and I think we have to struggle with that and negotiate that. But I do not think that because that is the case, that we should stop negotiating or understanding or unpacking Black death in a way that talks about, thinks through, and examines the injury. I think we're so quick to jump to the suture that we almost re-injure ourselves. Like we re-injure Black folks in an effort to jump to the fix because we've never fully examined the laceration. And I think that I can imagine Gambino trying to think through or move through the laceration in his own way, being a license for Black people to move through the injury in their own way too. Even though it is very, 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 very triggering, even though it is very, 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 at times negligent, and can be negligent and dangerous when it comes down to it being in the public and therefore susceptible to the rapacity of white people.
So real quick, what message will you give to Gambino a minute or less? You're talking directly towards him. What would you say? What would you say? Speak to the camera, let us know.
No, I'm joking.
Baby love, no.
My love.
My love. No, I think that if I was sitting and talking with Donald, my first statement to him would be, don't commodify Black death in this way. That we don't have to commodify Black death in this way for us to understand what is happening in America, first and foremost. And that beyond that, if we are going to create art in this way, that he has to be willing and understanding of the fact that there are going to be folks who exist in opposition to his art because of how traumatizing it is.
That's legitimate.
And that is legitimate, and that is what causes that territory. And that if he's going to engage art in this way, that he really should be sitting with folks who exist on the front line, folks who are actually doing this work every day, folks who don't get the fame or the money from producing art like that, folks like me who are sitting here trying to make ends meet day by day, who sometimes don't eat day by day, right? Because they are like they are negotiating like real life under capitalism, right? Like this is America, what I'm living.
Right.
So like understanding that's what it looks like for me, for folks who are going to talk about and engage Black Death in that way, and engage or make their art engaging of Black art or Black Death and Black pain.
Okay. What about you, Raekwon?
I guess I would say something similar along the lines. I think I would just ask him to like reach beyond his artistry or like his comedy or his acting and like engage with the folks that are on the front line, so that like he could, so that it's not, so that it doesn't look like he is commodifying Black Death, and so it's also not like it's traumatizing, because like Deshaun has mentioned, like we've heard these stories, we've seen these realities one too many times. So I would just say that it is necessary that when like, and also beyond Childish Gambino, to be honest, all of these rappers or artists that get this title intentionally or unintentionally, that it is important to like engage with those who are in the forefront. And I think that to a certain extent, I guess like now being an artist requires that. Like, because I remember there was a moment in time that last year I was in the English class and we would talk about Young Thug's the way he dressed. And it was like, some people was feeling like, okay, it's cool, like it allows people to be engaged with the feminine side. And then I know other students, such as myself and sometimes my twin brother, was like, sure, this is cool, this is cute, and like in the ways in which he exists, no one else is doing it fair. But like he's also not shedding light on trans folks that do this on the day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? So it's important to stand like in the forefront with these people, and like I think that strengthens the message, and it also like it makes it authentic. Yes, absolutely.
What about you?
Yeah. First, bolstering everything that they've already said.
Piggybacking off what they
I hate that term. Oh my God. Please don't piggyback. Let's, autopoiesis, self-create your ideas. No.
It's Barbie, bitch.
Yeah. Like my team. No, on a serious note. Like I said, I think that where you need Gambino, what you need to now consider is where to go from here. And if it's not in the direction of, attending to the wounds that you have now imaged, then it is negligent and it is dangerous. And only if after this video you created and you've imaged and you've dealt with or tried to allow us to deal with reckoning Black Death, activism TM, revolution, chaos, and Black joy. What are you going to do now to kind of make sure that those things materialize? Or make sure those things, specifically Black Death, in terms of Black Death, that Black Death is sutured, is fixed, and is attended to? Because if not, the art is left as a kind of a futile recapitulation to the system.
Absolutely. My message would be, I would tell him, yeah, you need to do your research, sis. And if you have, show him that you have done it. I'm not sure he probably has reached out and did something. Sure. But in this day and age, we can't just be putting out art and saying, okay, this is it, just take it what it is, because art at one time was blackface, minstrel shows, all that. That was art at one time. So I'm going to critique your art. I don't give a fuck about how you feel about it.
It's in the public. It's for
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna keep my foot on your neck. You're making money off of this shit. Like, and I often have a lot of questions for people who make money off of oppression. And that's Black and white people. Even when discussing this stuff, we have to be careful. And we're taking money from, we need to reinvest it, right, and stuff. So that would be my message. What are you doing with this money you're making off of this? what conversations, like, what are you doing? I want to know what you're doing other than just giving us art, because I don't want people to say, well, artists shouldn't have a message or anything, because, like someone said on Twitter, you cannot remain neutral on a moving train. And that's all I got. Join us next time. Thank you so much to all the folks who came. Jatella, Deshaun, and Raekwon. All these black ass names. And we'll talk to y'all next time.
Later.
Bye.